theyeshiva.net.
Let's summarize the discussion and move on. Rabbi Chisda said a chiddush that Rosh Hashanah l'malachim for non-Jewish kings is different than for Jewish kings. For Jewish kings, it's the first day of Nisan. The Mishnah said that in the opening of Rosh Hashanah. For non-Jewish kings, it begins when? In Tishrei. His proof was from the fact that Nehemiah ben Chachliah says that in the 20th year of the reign of the king Artaxerxes, he was told by a Jew about the dire plight of the Jewish people in Eretz Yisrael. That was in the month of Kislev. In the month of Nisan, the 20th year of the same king, he went to the king and he got permission to go to his brothers in Yerushalayim and help them rebuild and help them protect the Yishuv and help them rebuild the wall, which he actually did. The problem here is, how can Kislev and Nisan both be the same year of the king when Rosh Hashanah l'malachim, Rosh Chodesh Nisan should have made the encounter with the king in Nisan year 21? From here, Rabbi Chisda proved that Rosh Chodesh Tishrei was Rosh Hashanah l'malachim, hence Kislev and Nisan belonged to the same year. When the Gemarah supposed an question, maybe the story of Nisan happened before the story of Kislev. In other words, Rosh Hashanah l'malachim is not the first day of Tishrei; it's the first day of Nisan. But what happened was Kislev happened after Nisan, so therefore they're both in the same year. This was conclusively rejected because the story wouldn't make sense. The story has to make sense. He comes to the king to complain about the situation and ask permission because he found out about the situation. In Kislev, he found out about the situation. It can't be after Nisan. He goes to the king not knowing anything, and he speaks about something that's going to happen months later. It doesn't make sense. So therefore, Rabbi Chisda, it seems, conclusively proved that Rosh Hashanah l'malachim has to change for non-Jewish kings. It's not Rosh Chodesh Nisan, it is Rosh Chodesh Tishrei, because from the Psukim of Nehemiah, Perek Aleph and Perek Beis, we see that Tishrei does not create a new anniversary for the king. Came Rabbi Yosef, and Monsey Rabbi Yosef asked a question on Rabbi Chisda. What was the question on Rabbi Chisda? When it comes to the construction of the second Beis Hamikdash, it says that on the 24th day of the 6th month, meaning on the 24th day of Elul, in the second year of Dar Yovesh, permission was given to start building the Beis Hamikdash, the second year of Dar Yovesh. However, right after that it says that in the 7th month, meaning in Tishrei, on 21, the 21st day of Tishrei, Chagai Hanavi has a nevuah, and it's a nevuah about the Bayis Sheni. Gadol yikvoid habayis azah acharon min harishon. If Rosh Chodesh Tishrei is a Rosh Hashanah l'malachim, the Torah says that the story in Elul happened in the second year of Dar Yovesh. It had to say that the prophecy to Chagai happened in the 3rd year of Dar Yovesh, because Rosh Chodesh Tishrei went in between them. The Torah says it was B'shnas Shtayim. It had to say now B'shnas Shalosh. Is the Charaya that the first day of Tishrei did not create a new anniversary, and therefore from Elul to Tishrei you're still in the same year, in the second year of Dar Yovesh. There's no Rosh Hashanah l'malachim on the first day of Tishrei, which would refute Reb Chisda's statement. So you have to go back and say Rosh Hashanah l'malachim would be the first day of Nisan. So Rabbi introduced a gewaldige chiddush, and he says that this man, who he calls Koirish, was a kosher king. He was a wonderful king. He was such a good king that the Jewish people wanted to respect him and pay tribute to him like a Jewish king. In what sense? How do they do it? That the anniversary of his monarchy they counted as they would one of their own. And therefore they counted it not in Tishrei, but in Nisan. And that's why the Rosh Hashanah l'malachim for this man was in Nisan, and hence Elul and Tishrei are both in the same year. But it doesn't undermine Reb Chisda. This is Reb Abohu's interpretation. It wouldn't contradict Reb Chisda. A regular non-Jewish king, Rosh Hashanah is Echad B'Tishrei. A Jewish king, Rosh Hashanah is Echad B'Nisan. This man, whom we're identifying as, in this case, Dar Yovesh II, or who he calls here Kodesh, which the Gemara is going to address right now. I mean, what are you changing a name for? He is a Melech Kasher. This is basically the summation of the Gemara till now, and now we continue Maskif Law Reb Yosef. You can ask, yes.
The non-Jews went by the Jewish calendar?
The non-Jews what?
Went according to the Jewish calendar?
No. The Jewish documents, when it came to writing about this king, because of the tremendous respect and love they had to him, because he was a melech kosher, which was a unique phenomenon, they treated him as one of their own. How do they treat him as one of their own?
So
That they celebrated,
Tishrei.
not Tishrei but Nisan, they celebrated his anniversary like they did Malchi Yisrael.
No, they didn't.
But no, they didn't. It's not the same month.
Huh?
Different month. They didn't do it like Malchi Yisrael.
They did.
No, they didn't. One was
Tishrei, one was Nisan.
Shana from Malchi Yisrael. Nisan.
Right.
And one was Shana from Malchi.
So a Jewish
Tishrei.
king, you
Tishrei.
gave...
So you're not celebrating the same.
Only for him. Only for
Only for him.
Only for the Yavish.
For this man, they made an exception.
Right, him they made an
Yeah,
exception.
only him.
Because...
Like Malchi
Because he
Yisrael.
was a melech kosher.
Right, so you give him a different
But
month. Why did you use the same month as the Malchi Yisrael?
They did.
They made him like Malchi Yisrael.
They made him like Malchi
Normal
Yisrael.
Melech Umas Ha'olam. What he's asking, a normal Melech Umas
Right.
Ha'olam.
Oh, Tishrei.
Tishrei.
Yeah, yeah.
So if it's in Tishrei, and the Melech Yisrael is in Nisan, so if I'm a Melech Umas Ha'olam, and I look and I say, listen, you guys had made the calculations here, if it was Shlomo Melech, you would say that
You're saying it undermines Shalom
I
Malchus.
was saying that you're not doing
What
you're
you want to
doing for us.
accomplish.
You're changing the rules.
What you want to
That's what he's
accomplish.
asking. You're changing the rules.
By the other kings, not by this man.
I know you
This
won't-
is what you're asking.
How do you mind back?
No, they changed back to Tishrei.
No, I'm just saying.
We'll
it's
soon
not
see in a
Shalom
moment that they
Malchus.
didn't have to wait for the next king. Okay, we'll
Yeah,
get
but
there in a
it's
moment.
not Shalom.
The answer to your question, I would say is,
No, it's Nachum's question.
okay, the Menachem's question, I would say is that there was once a Yid who was summoned by his parrot, by his overlord, to some court because of an issue. And there's something with the Kretschmer, the inn that he had, one of those stories in Poland. And he went to his Rebbe what to do in court, how to defend himself. He can end up in prison his whole life. So he told him, when they ask him this question, he should say this and this answer. He says, what happens if the parrot comes up and invents this story? He says, then you'll say this. He says, what happens if he comes up with this story? You'll say this. What happens if he comes up with this? He says, David Nitshmeina Esra. He doesn't come up with all of these ideas. You David Shmeina Esra, so you have time to come up with all of these ideas. So I would say that the Malchi Umas Ha'olam didn't learn Masechta Rosh Hashanah, and they didn't know all of these distinctions. The Bechizda's original raya is a starker raya.
That's when you think of all these things. The explanation is specific for that.
We didn't slug up his raya. We brought another pasuk that undermines his statement. We have an issue with Nehemiah. You're right. It's going to be a problem. Esrim and Esrim. It's going to be a problem. You're right. You're right about that.
The fact that they're counting the reign of the king.
No. Of course.
Whether you do it
Yeah,
or
that's the main thing.
not. Why didn't
What do they know about Nisan and Tishrei? That's my point. They're not getting into the nuances.
So when's the next one?
Yeah.
Well, why didn't they start counting the Jewish side? To respect the king.
Shalom Malchus. Shalom Malchus. Yeah.
So that itself.
Shalom Malchus. Yeah. Now, before we go further, I just want to make a ha'ara comment, which we should really focus on. And that is, let us just remember the chronology that we articulated in the beginning, based on the psukim of Daniel, Ezra, and Nehemiah, and based on how the Chazal saw the history. And that is, that the system was that Babylonia, right, Evel Meroidach, and then Belshazzar was defeated by Persia. And the system, the way it happened was, you had Darius, the great Darius Hamadi, who defeats Bava. And then you have Kairosh, Cyrus, who inherits Darius, gives permission to build, but then retracts his position. And then you have, after that, after Darius and Kairosh, you have Achashverosh, who reigns for 14 years. And then Darius, who Tosfos identifies as the son of Achashverosh and Esther Hamalka, who in the second year of his reign, what happens? The second year of his reign, he authorizes again the binyan of the Beis Hamikdash, and he follows it through, which is immediately a reason why we would assume he's a melech kosher. Despite everything, he is the first one who allows the Jews to go back and rebuild the Beis Hamikdash. In fact, his permission is coupled with a nevuah of Chagai and Zechariah that the Jews should build the Beis Hamikdash, and he allows them to actually go and do it. This is the second year of Darius. As we said, The Beis Hamikdash is completed 4 years later in the 6th year of Darius on Gimel Adar in the 6th year of this man Darius, whom the Gemarah here identifies with the generic name of all the Persian kings. That name Artaxerxes, who is the generic name like Pari in Egypt. Ezra is going to arrive to Yerushalayim a year and a half after the completion of the second Beis Hamikdash, meaning if this happened in the 6th year of Darius, Gimel Adar, Ezra arrives, he leaves Rosh Chodesh Nisan, but not that Rosh Chodesh Nisan. He leaves a year later Rosh Chodesh Nisan. That Nisan, they're Makar the Karban Pesach. The next Rosh Chodesh Nisan, Ezra leaves from Babylonia, and he makes Aliyah to Eretz Yisrael, and he arrives in of the 7th year of Darius. That's when Ezra arrives. Nehemiah, years later, here's when, in the 20th year of Artaxerxes, who the Gemara identifies with this Darius, hears about the dire situation in Kislev, and in Nisan he gets permission from the king, and he also goes up. He has to come back after years because he made a condition with the king he's going to come back, so he goes, and then he comes back, and then he goes back again. He goes back again to Yerushalayim. Now, remembering all of this, the Gemara now continues with a big question of Rabbi Yosef. I just want to add one ha'ara, which is an important ha'ara here. We learned before that in the 20th year of the reign of Artaxerxes, Nehemiah asked permission from the king to go to Yerushalayim to help rebuild the fortresses of Yerushalayim which were destroyed. It seems here that we're identifying Artaxerxes with Darius. So the 20th year would be the 20th year of Darius. According to what Rabbi said here, Darius has a separate count. His Rosh Hashanah is not Tishrei. His Rosh Hashanah is Nisan. Unlike the other Malchi U'Masa'ila. If that's the case, let's understand. Nehemiah hears from Hanani in the month of Kislev, the 20th year, about the situation of Jews in Eretz Yisrael. In Nisan, the 20th year, he goes to the king. But you just told us that he had a different Rosh Hashanah. His Rosh Hashanah was Nisan.
It's afterwards, they made it. When everything was done, they made it afterwards.
Back to the Chizda's original Raya, 2020, his whole Raya. That for A'omas Ha'olam Rosh Hashanah is Tishrei, is because Kislev and Nisan are the same month. So, it must be the same year. So it's both the 20th year. If it would be Rosh Chodesh Nisan, you have a major problem. Now that you're just telling me that for him, actually Rosh Hashanah Malachim is Rosh Chodesh Nisan, so you answer the problem with Darius, that from Elul to Tishrei you don't have a new year. It's year 2 and year 2. But now you have a bigger problem, or at least the same problem, and that is Artaxerxes 20 and 20 doesn't work.
When did they establish it as a Melech Kosher? We're going to follow that.
So that's the problem here, that L'cha'oira should be in the
Change
sugya.
it in the middle.
Yeah, it's like, well, you gave me one answer, like you fix one thing, those games, what are they called? You get it right here, but now, you worked so hard to get it right on the other side, to get your reds together, now you get your greens together, and then the reds fell apart. What are you doing here? So you're back to Reb Chizda's problem, and that was the whole proof of Reb Chizda. So this is a p'silchayda here, appel in the sugya when you follow. When you follow. So the emes is that the Gemara is going to ask other questions in Rabbi, other big questions in Rabbi, and the answers will ultimately deal with this as well. So it's not like we're really stuck here because the sugya didn't end. So based on the new answers that we're going to have, we'll be able to deal with this also. It's just interesting that the Gemara does not bavar in this and l'chayr ignore this question, which is a very blatant issue. The Ritva says the Gemara should have asked the question, and the Gemara could have asked the question. The only reason the Gemara doesn't is because there's no clear proof that Artaxerxes and Darius are the same person. We are associating them, but it's not like a clear proof, and therefore it's not a major question. You could say it's like a different king. Darius was a Melech Kasher. He wasn't a Melech Kasher. It's a different king. That's why the Ritva says the Gemara doesn't attack this, and there's anyway going to be a discussion which will answer this, even if we want to say it is the same. Yeah.
In Parsha Simcha, there's no names for the Yom Tov, right? So it doesn't really lead you. It says on the 7th month, the 6th month, whatever. But in the Parsha Go, if you say this in the morning, it says a Chodesh Hazeh, and then it says a Chodesh Aviv, So it's like, it leaves it really open, so how do you know when the new year is? There's no names for the months. Pesach is Chodesh Aviv.
You're right. That's a good question. In Chumash, it doesn't say when Rosh Hashanah is. In Chumash, it just says.
Doesn't say Rosh Hashanah.
Doesn't say Rosh Hashanah. You're right. In Chumash, it says Nisan is the first month. In Chumash, it says that we celebrate a holiday on the 7th month on the first day. Yom Teruah Yeh Lechem. It's called Yom Teruah. You're right. It's this Masechta that identifies it as Rosh Hashanah. And the big question is, who decided the first day of Tishrei is Rosh Hashanah? That's going to be the next later sugya, but we're going through the Mishnah. The Mishnah started with Nisan. We're soon going to.
Oh, you're right.
We're going through the Mishnah. You see, we started with Nisan. There's soon going to be the second Rosh Hashanah, which is going to be Pesach. There's going to be the Rosh Hashanah of Elul, Rosh Chodesh Elul, Ma'aseh Behema, and then we're going to get to the Rosh Chodesh Tishrei. All the Rosh Hashanahs are going to be dealt with.
Okay, sorry.
No problem. Another very interesting issue that's brought up is, Tosfos says here that Kodesh was the son, Darius was the son of Esther and Achashverosh. That means he was a Jewish kid. If he was a Jewish kid, of course you have to count Malchi Yisrael. He was a Jewish king, he wasn't a non-Jewish king.
No, Jewish king.
So that which we have to clarify, that even though halachically he was a Jewish king, but it wasn't a Jewish government, it wasn't a Jewish establishment. He didn't identify himself as a Jew. He identified himself as a son of Achashverosh. He was part of the Persian monarchy. So even though the blood flowing in his sinews were Jewish, and his mother was Jewish, right? And he has, so to speak, a Jewish soul, or literally a Jewish soul. The Gemara says that Akum Habal Bas Yisrael Havlat Kosher. That's the halacha. Nonetheless, you would think that they counted L'Malchi U'Masa'olam, but Afal Pikein, he was a Melech Kosher, and they counted to Malchi Yisrael. Zog the Gemara weiter. Maskif lo Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef now asks a question. What's the question? Chode. One problem is, Im kein koshu kroi adodi. If Rabbi was right that for Darius they started with Nisan, we have now a new contradiction in the Psukim. What's the new contradiction? The Ksiv. The Pasuk says in Ezra, Perek Vav, V'sheitzi baisa dena. Sheitzi means it was completed. Baisa dena, this house. This house was completed Ad Yom Tlasa Liyerach Adar, till the 3rd day of the month of Adar, Di Hishnas Sheish Lamalchus Darius Malka, which was on the 6th year of Darius the king. The second Beis Hamikdash was completed on Gimel Adar in the 6th year of the reign of Darius. This is what Ezra tells us. Okay, so what's the problem? The problem is this. V'tanya, we have a braysa. The same period in the calendar, the next year, Allah Ezra mi Bavel v'galusa yimai. Ezra makes Aliyah from Bavel together with his exile, meaning Ezra comes with his entourage. His Galus means the Jews that were with him in Galus, they come up. Yeah. So the Beis HaMikdash is completed on the 3rd of Adar. Ezra makes Aliyah not that year, but the next year. Rosh Chodesh Nisan, he makes Aliyah. He doesn't come up immediately. The journey is a long journey, and he arrives only in the month of Av. But when it says that Ezra leaves Rosh Chodesh Nisan, it doesn't mean that Rosh Chodesh Nisan. It means the next. And this is not just the Brisa decides this. The Brisa proves it. Because the Pasuk says in Ezra, the Beis HaMikdash has completed Gimel Adar. That year, a month and a half later, they make a Karban Pesach. First time in many, many decades. There was no Karban Pesach. So a tremendous joy. After that, the Pasuk says, after the story of the Karban Pesach, Ezra makes Aliyah. Now, if he left Rosh Chodesh Nisan, it was before the Karban Pesach. So obviously, a year went by, and Ezra arrives a year and a half after the Beis HaMikdash is completed. It's completed Gimel Adar. He leaves Rosh Chodesh Nisan a year later. He arrives in Av a year and a half after the Binyan Beis HaMikdash. What's the problem? Uksiv, we have a pasuk in the next perek in Ezra Zayin. Vayava Yerushalayim b'chodesh hachamishi. He arrives to Yerushalayim in the 5th month, which is the month of Av. He shnas hashvius lemelech, which is the 7th year of the king. No, let's think about the problem here. If Rosh Hashanah lemelachim fadayavish is Tishrei, Amachaya. Why Amachaya? The Beis Hamikdash is completed on Gimel Adar, the 6th year of Daryavish. Rosh Hashanah lemelachim starts for Goyim in Tishrei. They're Makriv a Karban Pesach in the 6th year. Tishrei is a new anniversary, is the 7th year. Ezra makes Aliyah Rish Chodesh Nisan and arrives in Av in the 7th year. Wonderful. So it can make sense. If you say Rosh Hashanah Fadayavish, they treated him like a Jewish king, was Rish Chodesh Nisan, so the Beis Hamikdash is completed Gimel Adar, the 6th year. When starts the 7th year? Less than a month later. Rosh Chodesh Nisan is the 7th year. When does Ezra make Aliyah? The next Rosh Chodesh Nisan, it's already a new anniversary. It's the 8th year. So how can Ezra come in the 7th year? You can't go from 6 to 7 when you have 2 years in between. Is the Charaya? Reb Chizda was wrong. Reb Avo was wrong. It's back to Rosh Chodesh Tishrei, which brings us back to the original question of exactly with Chagai, the year 2 and 3. Tishrei has to be a break-off point. This is Rabbi Yosef's question, the first problem that the Psukim contradict each other. Stam, it's good to mention, the Gemara asks elsewhere, Megillah, why Ezra, who was considered the greatest, one of the greatest Jews ever, the Gemara says that Ezra was royu, that Ezra should have been like Moshe to give the Torah. Why he didn't make Aliyah together with Zerubbabel, the first Aliyah when Kodesh gave permission, Ezra should have ran. Why does Ezra remain in Bavel? And the Gemara answers, because there was a man who lived there, who was an old man, and he couldn't leave. His name was Baruch ben Neriah, who was a Talmud of Yirmiyah Hanavi. And from here the Gemara learns that Gadol Talmud Torah, even more than the Binyan Beis Hamikdash, and as long as Baruch ben Neriah was in Bavel, Ezra would not move because he was learning by him. He was his Talmud, the Rambam, when he goes through the Messiah of Halacha, the 40 generations from Moshe till Reb Ashi, who sealed the Talmud Bavli. You have Yirmiyah, you have Baruch ben Neriah, and you have Ezra. These were the Chachmei HaMasorah, so to speak, the spiritual leaders. So therefore Ezra doesn't leave. Once Baruch ben Neriah passed away, Ezra leaves at the first opportunity. But when he comes up already, the Beis HaMikdash is complete. But it's in the 7th year, not in the 8th year. Va'oid, I have another problem. Me dummy. Reb Avo told us that Kodesh is a melech kasha. I don't understand you. Hasam Kodesh, Hachad Ayavish. Reb Avo was talking about Kodesh. We're talking about Daryavish. The Psukim here, year 2 and year 3, are about Daryavish, not Kodesh. And for the Gemara, on the second question, Tana, we learned a Braisa. Who Kodesh, who Daryavish, who Artaxasta. The same king is sometimes identified as Kodesh Cyrus. He's identified as Kodesh, even though there was another Kodesh. There was another Kodesh before Achashverosh, exactly. There was another. Nonetheless, he's also identified as Kodesh. Who Kodesh, who Daryavish, and who Artaxasta. The same king. Kodesh Melech Kasher Haya. He's called Kodesh because Kodesh, as Rashi says, has the 3 letters Chaf Shin Reish. He's a kosher king. Artaxasta al Shem Malchusay. He's called Artaxasta because of the empire that he leads. All Persian kings had this generic name, Artaxasta, like Egyptian kings had the name Para. Umashmai, and what was his individual name? Daryavishmai. So therefore, when Rabbi Avo said Kodesh is a Melech Kasher, he was giving him a nickname. The Jews called him Kodesh because he was a kosher mensch. Kodesh Kasher. It was a nickname. And that's what he wants to bring out, that he's a Melech Kasher, so he uses his nickname. But it was like he would say Daryavish was a Melech Kasher. So Mela, don't get confused. It was just Rabbi Avo speaking in short language in order to convey why they counted for Kodesh, for Daryavish, Rish Chodesh Nisan, not Rish Chodesh Tishrei. Frag the Gemarah Mikol Mokaim Kasha. You still have the big problem. What's the big problem? That clearly in Sefer Chagai they're counting Daryavish from Nisan, and in Sefer Ezra they're counting Daryavish from Tishrei, and that's why Ezra goes up in the 7th year, because you're counting from Tishrei, not from Nisan. Amar Reb Yitzchak Loi Kasha. Very interesting answer. Kan koydem shehechmetz, kan la'achar shehechmetz. There was a time of Darius before he became chametz, and there was a time after he became chametz. Actually, hechmetz here means before he became vinegar, chametz became vinegar, and after. Why is the word vinegar used? Because vinegar comes from wine. And there was a time when the wine was amachaya to drink, and then the same wine becomes vinegar. So Khan, in the Sefer Chagai, where we see that the Rosh Hashanah was Nisan, they compared him to Jewish kings, it was Kodim Shehachmetz, before he morally deteriorated and became vinegar. And that's why, to show respect to him, they celebrated his anniversary on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So Elul and Tishrei are both in the same year, the second year of Darius. In Ezra, it's Achar Shehachmetz. It's after he became sour, after he became vinegar.
That answers the other Shabbat too.
So when Ezra came up from Bavel, it's not the second year of Darius, it's already year 7 of Darius. They said, you know what, he's going back to Tishrei. If he's going back to Tishrei, so then the Beis HaMikdash is completed Gimel Adar, the 6th year. Rosh Chodesh Nisan is what? Still the 6th year. The Korban Pesach is the 6th year. Rosh Chodesh Tishrei is 7th year. Ezra comes up, that Nisan is the 7th year. He arrives in Av, is the 7th year. The next Tishrei is going to be the 8th year.
So for documents, 1 year is going to be 18 months long.
It's even big.
When we,
Even stronger. What do you do with the?
When you have 2 months, that could be the same year.
Homeland Security. What are they
you mean
called?
that year when they made the change? That year when they decided to make the change, you want to know what happened.
Sure, with Soder, it's
For
different.
documents, it's going to be
In other words, one of his years was short. One of his years was cut short. Nicht gefährlich. One of his years was 6 months. You understand? When they decided they're going back to Tishrei, so let's say it was the month of Elul, they said his anniversary is being cut by 6 months. Rosh Chodesh is already a new anniversary. Right. So would it make it longer? Would make it shorter? The year became shorter. Yeah. Because as we know, time could be relative. So, Kodim Shehechmetz L'achar Shehechmetz, and that's where they went back. So this automatically answers the 20th year. Once he became vinegar, he didn't go back to become wine. So now in the 20th year, it's Tishrei. So therefore, Nehemiah speaks to this Jew in Kislev in the 20th year. He also speaks to the king in Nisan of the 20th year, because Kislev and Nisan are the same year, because his Rosh Hashanah is Tishrei. So therefore, that question is also answered. Now the question is, where could Rabbi Yitzchak come up with such a chiddush? Maske for Reb Kahana. Reb Kahana questions the chiddush of Rabbi Yitzchak, Umi Hechmetz? Why did you decide that when Ezra came up to Eretz Yisrael, this man, Darius, became vinegar, he became a Rasha? Why? Haksiv, I'll prove you otherwise. There's a letter that Darius gave to Ezra when he sent him up, when they were building the Beis HaMikdash, or finishing the process, after the building of the Beis HaMikdash, he sends a letter with Ezra to the Jews who are ruling in Yehuda in Eretz Yisrael. What does the letter say? Dav Daled Amud Aleph. We quote the letter now. The letter is as follows, again from the book of Ezra Perek Vav. Uma chashchon, whatever they need, whatever the koyanim need in the Beis HaMikdash, ubnei toirin, any cattle, bnei bakar, bulls, cows, the dichrin are male rams, the imrin, sheep, la'alavon la'eloshmaya, which they want to bring up. Alavon is from the word oila, carbon oil. They want to bring up to the Ribbono Shel Olam, to the God of the heaven. Chintin, any wheat that they want. Melach, any salt that they want. Chamar, any wine that they want. Umeshach, any oil that they want. Basically, you have here the daily products that were used in the Beis HaMikdash for karbonos. You had to have, of course, salt for every carbon. You had to have wine for Nisach HaYayin. You had to, of course, have oil for all of the menachas. And you had to have wheat to be able to have the flour for the menachas. And, of course, you had the animals, the bulls and the rams and the sheep, which were the basic animals that were used as karbonos. K'maimer ka'anaya di b'Yerushalayim. Whatever the kohanim who live in Yerushalayim say, leheve misyoev lahoim yoim b'yoim di la shalu. You should give them every day without delay. Shalu means delay, without a dichui, without postponing it. No, he says this is called hechmetz. He sent such a letter and he says whatever the kohanim need, you give them every single day. This is called hechmetz. How can you describe this as hechmetz? That's the shaila that Reb Kahana asks on the Yitzchak statement. Zak the Gemarah Amalei Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak says, Rabbi, my Rabbi, mitunach. Mitunach means from your burden that you're imposing on me, I will prove that I'm right. In other words, your question is your answer. Mitunach, from your burden, from the place that you're bringing proof that I'm wrong, you could bring proof to me that something happened to him. Why? Continue the letter. The letter continues. He says, give them all these things. Dilahoin mahakrivin nichoichin le'loshmaya, so they could be makriv, karbonis, reach nichoyach, delicious karbonis to the God of heaven. Umitzalyin l'chaye malka uvenohi, so they will daven for the life of the king and his children. Rabbi Yitzchak tells Reb Kahana, you're proving to me from this letter that he's such a tzaddik, he's such a wonderful man. Why don't you see that it was all for ulterior motives? He wanted the Jews to daven for his life and his children. He was not thinking about the truth. This was not for God's sake. It was not for the Jewish people's sake. It was for himself. Frag the Gemarah, come on. Somebody who does things for this purpose, isn't it good to say this is called hechmetz, your vinegar? Your vinegar, like you say. We have a brayso. Somebody says, I'm going to give this selah for tzedakah because I want my children to live. Because I want to merit the life of Olam Haba. So the brayso raise tzaddik gomer. This is called a complete tzaddik. Why is he a complete tzaddik? Because despite the fact that there is a motive that he wants to gain, he wants the reward, nonetheless, the action is an extraordinary action. This is the mitzvah. Can a person work on himself and refine himself? Sure, but don't undermine this. This is even a Jew, so now you're telling me he does it and he has a motive. He wants schar? No. And for the Gemarah loy kash, there's no contradiction. Kan be Yisrael, kan ba'ivdei kechavim. There's a distinction between when a Jew does it and when the Oived Kechavim does it. What's the difference? So the difference is, Rashi says something fascinating. He says the Jew says he's doing it for that reason, but really he has a pure motivation. V'haraya, let's see Rashi. Zok Rashi. Harezet tzaddik gomer. Rashi is perturbed. What do you mean harezet tzaddik gomer? You give one selah for tzedakah, you become a tzaddik gomer. Im ragel bekach. It's a yid who always gives tzedakah, and he's ragel bekach, and he does it for personal gain. Kan be Yisrael, shaliboy l'shamayim. His heart is really directed to heaven. V'im meril noy b'chayav eine koyer loy tager. If Chalila something doesn't work out the way he wanted it to work out, he doesn't say this whole tzedakah was worthless, this whole God was worthless. Elatoyla ha'yisurin ba'avoynei. Aval oived kechavim im ein metivin loy kigmuloi koyer tager. By the Oived Kechavim's case, if he doesn't get exactly what he wanted, he wants a whole refund. There's no relationship. There's no refined relationship here. That's the difference. So in other words, what he's saying is that by Darius it was completely self-centered.
Wasn't Darius a year? But he wasn't Liba Leshamayim. He was that kind of year.
No, like Moshe was wearing clothes like Pharaoh's house when he grew up. It was the same thing.
No.
He's on Esther's lap learning the Midrash.
Right.
Tosfos says, Davdalan Amirala, the first Tosfos, V'hadet nan pede kama de Masechta Avos, al tiyu kavadim ha-mashamshun esarav shalom amanas l'kabel pras. Don't be like servants who serve the master with the condition to get a prize. And here you said, Harezet tzaddik gomer, hainu bumas ha'olam shetoyin ala rishonos. Tosfos says again, it's referring to not just that I want a prize, that without the prize, everything is worthless. If I don't get the prize, I regret my entire action. L'cha'oira, the answer to your question would be, since he was entrenched in that culture, so even though his mother was Jewish, since he was entrenched in that culture, so we're assuming that Liboy was not l'shamayim. Rabbi Yitzchak is assuming.
Moshe in Paro's house, the same thing? Libo wasn't Shemayim?
Moshe Rabbeinu?
Well, by Moshe it says,
Moshe says something, and here you think
no,
if he
two
didn't say
things.
anything, it would have been different?
no, first of all,
Dayavish to Moshe, that's a pretty big stretch over there.
no, first of all, Dayavish's father was a
Grew
Chashverish.
up in a very house.
His father was
Moshe's father was Amram. Dayavish's father was a Chashverish. You have to understand. And you understand that what?
Goes by the mother.
No, but I'm talking about education.
Oh, education.
And Esther was subservient to Chashverish. It's not like Jewish women run the house. You know what I mean? No, I'm serious.
Here.
If she went in without permission, she said, "I'm coming out with a head shorter. I don't have a regular. I don't have a normal husband." You know what I mean? It's
Moshe Rabbeinu's mother wasn't
number two. And number three,
Okay.
by
Well,
Moshe it
Esther.
also by Moshe it says, "Vayigdal Moshe vayetze alechav." He sacrificed his life to protect a beaten Jew from an Egyptian, and he almost paid for it with his life. Moshe Rabbeinu displayed complete sacrifice. Zok the Gemarah weiter. V'Iba Yisema, another way of understanding that he became vinegar, that he became sour. The first idea was that he speaks about, I want them to pray for me. That's a higher level of hechmetz. Now comes another hechmetz. We're trying to prove that something happened to this man, and therefore we changed from Rosh Chodesh Nisan to Rosh Chodesh Tishri. Exactly when we don't know, but it was between year 2 and year 7. Between year 2 and year 7, so when Ezra came up, there was already a change. How do you know that Darius morally deteriorated? The letter that he sends with Ezra, he tells them how to finish building the Beis Hamikdash. What is this? What does he say? The pasuk says, "Nidbachin di even glol tlosa." There should be 3 rows of even glol. Even glol is marble. He wants the walls of the Beis Hamikdash to be of marble, 3 rows of marble. V'nidbach di chadas, and 1 row of new wood. Is wood, chadas is new. He wants 3 rows of marble, 1 row of wood, 3 rows of marble, 1 row of wood. V'nafkesa min beis malka tisyahiv. The expenses should come from the house of the king, meaning the treasury of the king should pay for building the walls of the Beis Hamikdash. Frag the Gemarah, lama leida avad hachi. Why does he write this in this letter? He wants 3 rows of marble and 1 of wood. You want marble? Make marble. The answer is, we're assuming, Savar, he's thinking, Mardu bi Yehudai. If the Yuden, if the Jewish people rebel against me, Ikliye ben Nura, I should be able to put it up in fire, ignite it in flames, and that's why I want rows of wood. No, he says, this is the cheshbon he's making. This means he's hechmetz. Frag the Gemarah, atu shloima lo yavad hachi. Shloima Melech is also an anti-Semite suddenly. He did exactly the same thing. Take a look at Shloima in Malachim Aleph Perek Vav. Aksiv, the pasuk says, Shloima builds the internal courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash. Shloisha turei gazes. 3 rows of gazes. Gazes is stone, hewn stone. V'tur krusei sarazim. And 1 row of chopped down cedar wood. Daryavish is copying Shloima Melech. So when it comes to Darius, he's saying he's an anti-Semite. He's expecting the Jews to rebel against him. What are you going to say about Shlomo Melech? He's also not Jewish. Also Hechmetz at this point. And for the Gemarah, don't compare Darius to Shlomo. And the Gemarah makes 3 distinctions. Number 1, Shlomo Avad Milmaila. V'i Avad Milmata. Shlomo made the row of wood, a row of cedar wood on the top, and then under it 3 rows of hewn stone. He, Darius, made the row of wood on the bottom and the stones on top of it, so he should be able to burn the Beis HaMikdash from the bottom up so that the whole foundation will be destroyed. Another difference is, Shlomo Shakei Bibinyana. By Shlomo you didn't see the wood in a conspicuous way. He took the wood and he submerged it in the binyan. He did not submerge it in the binyan, he made it protrude so it should be able to catch on fire. For Shlomo, it wouldn't easily catch on fire because it was inside the stone. Next difference, Shlomo Sadye Besida. Shlomo plastered the wood. He did not because he wanted it should be burnt easily. And this is the concept that we see that Koresh Hechmetz, because he kept the wood visible, it wasn't plastered, it was protruded, and it wasn't on top, it was on bottom to be able to burn it.
This room can be occupied by 500.
Now, Amar Rabbi Yosef, V'Tamer Rabbi Yitzchak, I'll give you a third proof that hechmetz. The first one was his help to the Beis Hamikdash was for ulterior motives. The second one is he's thinking about burning down the Beis Hamikdash one day. Rabbi Yosef says, V'Tamer Rabbi Yitzchak benolan da'achmetz mehacha. Another pasuk. And here we go back to a pasuk we already learned in Nehemiah Perek Beis. He says in the month of Kislev, in the Perek Al month of Kislev, a Jew tells me about the problems in Yerushalayim. The month of Nisan, I go to the king and I plead to him, I want permission to be able to go to Eretz Yisrael. He is the butler. So now we quote the pasuk that we already quoted earlier. He says as follows, Vayomer li HaMelech, the king told me, and when the king told it to me, it says, V'hashegel yosheves etzloi, his intimate partner was sitting near him. Where does this come into the story here? What does he tell him? He says, I'll quote the end of the pasuk, Ad Monsey yiyeh ma'alechecha Monsey tashuv. How long are you going to be going and when are you going to come back? And the king granted me permission. He gave me a period of time to go, and then he comes back later, back to the king. Frag the Gemarah, what's this shegel? My shegel. Who's this shegel? You mean he was sitting with his wife? He was sitting with another partner? He was sitting with another? And how does it come into the story? This is a conversation between him and the king. What's the Torah trying to say? Who is this shegel and why this strange name? Ishtoi, the Malka, who's this shegel? Shegel is a term for intimacy, for relationships. Omar Rabbi bar Lima mishmei de Rav. Rabbi, the son of Lima, said in the name of Rav, Kalbasa. It was a female dog. This Darius used to have relations with a female dog. He says, tell me, this is not hechmetz? This is right here. Why does the Torah want to tell it to you? Why does the Tanakh want to tell it to you? They want to tell you who Nehemiah was dealing with. He was dealing with somebody who was sodomizing dogs. And as a result, this is a violation not only of Jewish law, but of Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. Rashi says, Kalbasa, and it was not for a pet. It was not for man's best friend. It was Lamishkev.
What's the best friend?
A real best friend, for intimacy. Zok Rashi B'nai Noach Huzeru al Kach. Even the sons of Noach, from his perspective, what's the crime? Ubnei Noach Huzeru al Kach. This is a violation of one of the mitzvahs of Bnei Noach. Shenema, the pasuk says in Bereshis, Al Kain Yazav Ishes Aviv Esimai V'Davak Be'ishtoi V'Hoyu LeBasar Echad. Man cleaves to a woman and they become one flesh. Yatsu Behema Chaya V'Oif. This excludes an animal, a chaya, a bird, She'eino Nasin Basar Echad, which could never become one flesh with the man or the woman, she'ein yoiladin min ha'adam, because there cannot be any reproductive component here, there cannot be any procreation. In other words, they can never really become basar echad as humans can, or animals on their own can, through producing a child who is a synthesis, who is a combination of the seed and the egg of father and mother.
What about a dolphin? No, Rashi says.
So therefore, for Darius, this was forbidden, even mitzad b'nei Noach. But you can't bring me psukim from Achrei Moshe and Kedoshim, because Achrei Moshe and Kedoshim were written for Jews. That's why it actually goes back to Bereshis, where you have the Sheva mitzvahs that were given to Adam and the b'nei Noach, and they too, just like Eishes Ish, adultery is forbidden for a ben Noach, with an animal, relations with sodomizing an animal is also forbidden for a ben Noach, and that's the shegel.
Why is he not a Jew? Why is he Ben Noach?
Again, you can't blame him for growing up in Achashverosh's palace. This is how he lived. But even as a ben Noach, it was forbidden. Frag the Gemarah, Ela Meyata, really? You believe that shegel is a female dog? Ela Meyata, let me read you a pasuk. Daniel speaks to Belshazzar. Belshazzar, you remember, there was Nebuchadnezzar, 45 years. His son, Evel Meroidach, 23 years. And his son, Belshazzar, 2 years, he was assassinated. He was the Babylonian king. Daniel comes to Belshazzar and says, Al Marei Shmaya Hisrei Mamta. You elevated yourself on top of the master of heaven. You're arrogant. Ulemanya Divaisei Hayisiv Kadamach. You took the vessels of his home, of the Beis Hamikdash, and you brought them before you. You gypped off the vessels of the Beis Hamikdash and you took them to you. Va'ant, and you. v'rav revanach shegol asach ulechenosach chamra shasayin b'hoin. And you, v'rav revanach means your ministers, your sarim, and your shegol, your intimate partner, ulechenosach, your pilakshim, your concubines, your mistresses, you all drank wine in the vessels of the Beis Hamikdash. Fleg the Gemarah, shegel kalbasi. If a shegel is a female dog, kalbasa bas mishti chamri.
Why not?
Does it fit into the pasuk here? You drank, your mistresses drank, your ministers drank, and your dog drank. And for the Gemarah, holei kash, it's not a question. The malfa lavashasa. You train a dog to do anything. You train the dog to drink, to sit at parties and drink. They say about the Roman Caligula, he appointed his horse as a member of the Roman Senate. His horse would sit there by him by the parties as the Roman Senate. No, the horse becomes a senator. The dog can't become an alcoholic. It's beseder. So b'meila, this is fine. So the mouthful of a shasya, no problem. So shegel could mean a female dog. Frag the Gemarah 1 second. Now you're pushing it. Ela mayata, come to a pasuk in Tehillim. In Tehillim Perek Memhei, Kapitel Memhei, which speaks about the time of Mashiach, we have B'nois melachim bikroisecha. The daughters of kings will adore you. Nitzva shegel lemincha. The shegel will stand on your right side, dressed up, b'kesem oifer, with gold that comes from the country oifer. Fregechayich, v'shegel kalbesehi. If shegel is a female dog, this is what's going to happen when Mashiach comes. Ma'ikam avasul l'navi l'Yisrael. What is the Navi telling the Jewish people? That the female dog is going to be on their right side, dressed up in gold that comes from oifer. Nitzva shegel lemincha. And for the Gemarah Hachik Amar, over there the meaning of the pasuk is symbolic. B'schar shechaviva toira l'Yisrael. Because your love to Torah is so profound. It's like the love that they have to their dogs in their culture when they used to live, when they used to sleep, they used to sodomize the dogs. Because of that, you're zoiche to the gold that comes from Ofer. V'bo yisema. You want to know why that's the example? It's a modern example. That's what you want to know. They bring here I saw in the Mefarshim here in the Mesifta, they bring two biyurim. One biyur is that the Ben Yehoyada says they couldn't find any better example of the love that Jews have to Torah than the love that they have to dogs. He says, and don't they love their wives more than they love the dogs? Say that. Say like they love their wives. So the Ben Yehoyada says as follows. He says, even in their culture, it was disgusting to be with a dog. It's one of the Shav Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. Nonetheless, they were so connected to it, they were so inspired by it, it triggered them so much that despite whatever the culture around them said, they were loyal to the dogs. He says, that even in a situation when the people around the Jewish people say, Shuvi, Shuvi, Hashalamas, what do you need it? They still have a special chvivus for Torah. The Netziv writes that for a person to be with an animal is not al pi derech hateva. It's not the natural, biological instincts that a man wants to be with a dog. Elamai, people can develop every type of fetish and addiction, and if they follow it, it becomes second nature. So he says that the relationship of Jews to Torah is also in the positive way l'mayla mederech hateva. It's not a natural relationship. There it's in a destructive way, but here it's like a supernatural addiction that the Jewish people have to Torah l'mayla mederech hateva. Okay, so therefore, Shegel could mean dog. Another answer is La'olam Shegel Malkasehi. Really, Shegel is the queen, his intimate partner, not a dog. Nehemiah came to the king, and the king was sitting with his Shegel, with his Malka. Not a problem. Where's the Hechmetz? Where's the Hechmetz? He's allowed to be with a wife. Rabbi Barlema, Rabbi Barlema, who says Hashegel Yesheva Setzli means he had a dog. He had a tradition Not that it means this everywhere. This is what shegel means. Shegel means an intimate partner. Usually, it's a wife. So it's not a problem with Tehillim. Nitzvah shegel mincha is a wife. However, he had a tradition that in his case, the intimate partner happened to be a dog. It's not upgeteicht the vort. It's saying it to teach you the hechmetz.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
It's telling you to teach exactly. That's the point. That's the point. Frag the Gemarah v'amai karei shegel. So why do you call it shegel if it's a queen? Shahoyse chaviva love keshegel, because he loved it like he would his queen. Inami shoyishiva b'makam l'shegel. The guy was more crazy than you think. He put her in the place that's designated for a wife. Nitzvah shegel yamincha means the queen stands to your right side. Instead of having his wife there, he had his dog there, and that was part of his obsession with the dog. Stam, it's interesting. I think the Shalah brings that by a chuppah, where do you put the kala? You put the kala the right side of the chasen. Why? Nitzvah shegel liyamincha. The shegel stands on your right side, and nitzvah shegel liyamincha. The last letters are Rosh Teves kala. Nitzvah is hey, shegel is lamed, yamincha is chaf, kala. That's the source why by a chuppah the kala stands on the right side of the chasen. Iba Yisema, Minolon the Achimitz, how do you know he became sour? Mehacha. From here. Another letter that Darius sends with Ezra to the person in charge in Yerushalayim. Darius writes, Ad Ksav Kakrin Meya. Give him up to 100 kikar of silver. Ad Chintin Kurin Meya. Give him up to 100 kurin of wheat. Ad Chamar Batin Meya. Up to 100 batim, basa is 3 sa'ah of wine. Ad Batin Meshach Meya. Up to 100 batim of oil. Umalachti like sav. And salt you can give without any estimation. Nu, meikare beloy kitzusa. V'hashta bekitzusa. You see, in the first letter that we brought in the beginning of the sugi, he says, give them whatever they need. And suddenly, everything is with numbers, with limits, is the Charaya Hechmetz. Frek the Gemarah, please. Vidilma, maybe the guy took a course in time management and not wasting money. Vidilma, maybe Meikara have a Kimle Bikitsusa. Maybe in the beginning he Pasha didn't know what they need. So he says, here's a blank check. And then he realized what they need, so he made a cheshbon. Well, how do you know that this comes because of stinginess and rishus and cruelty? He was just being a responsible person. Didn't want to squander money, and didn't want that most of the money should go for the kiddush and for the herring, for the Shabbos kiddush. And for the Gemarah, you're right. It would be more clear to give the original answers. What are the original answers? That we have 3 sources for hechmetz. Number 1, that he says he's going to help them simply, they should pray for him. Number 2, he builds the Beis HaMikdash with wood protruding outside, unlike Shloimeh. And number 3, he has this dog in lieu of the queen in violation of Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. B'meila, he goes through a process of hechmetz, and when he goes through a process of hechmetz, his Rosh Hashanah changes back from Nisan to Tishrei, and hence, even though his original Rosh Hashanah was Nisan like the Jewish kings, but nonetheless, later it goes back to Tishrei, and therefore there's no contradiction between the Psukim, and the Chizdas Chiddush is maintained that for Umas Ha'olam Rosh Hashanah is the first day of Tishrei. We're holding the Avdalah Amud Aleph, 8 lines from the bottom. The 2 dots of Ulterior Golem. Till now, the first 2.5 pages of Masechta, the first 2.5 dafim of Rosh Hashanah, the Gemarah discussed the opening Mishnah, the opening words of the Mishnah, that Be'echad B'Nisan is Rosh Hashanah L'Malachim. That every year on the first day of Nisan, we celebrate the anniversary of kings, or as the Gemarah explained, or Chizd explained, Jewish kings, whose anniversary is always on the first day of Nisan. Meaning, even if they became kings in the month of Adar, the month of Shvat, the month of Kislev, whatever it is, Rosh Chodesh Nisan starts a new year. That's the anniversary. And as the Gemarah explained, 2 points. First of all, why? Why was there a need for Rosh Hashanah in general? Because of documents. Second of all, why Rosh Chodesh Nisan? Because of the Psukim by Shloimeh HaMelech. And then third of all, the long discussion about the difference between Jewish kings and non-Jewish kings, as evident from the way the Tanakh describes Persian history and the Rosh Hashanah of the kings of Persia, besides with the exception of the one king Darius, who was actually perhaps Jewish, and lived like a Jew, was a melech kosher, and therefore they gave him the unique privilege of counting his anniversary Rosh Chodesh Nisan until he also disappointed the people, Hechmitz, and then he went back to being counted by Rosh Chodesh Tishrei. That was the point, basically a summation of Rosh Hashanah l'Melachim. Now we come to step 2, which is Be'echad B'Nisan Rosh Hashanah is L'Regalim, Rosh Hashanah for Yomim Tovim. Now here you have to understand 2 things. Number 1, what happens Rosh Chodesh Nisan, that is Rosh Hashanah for the Yomim Tovim. And second, what does it even mean that there's a Rosh Hashanah for Yomim Tovim? Who cares? Like, why is it relevant? What are the ramifications? Zog the Gemarah, Regalim Be'echad B'Nisan. First question is, are you going to tell me that the Rosh Hashanah for holidays, for Regalim, for Yomim Tovim, is the first day of Nisan? But Chamisha Asa B'Nisan. It's obvious that it's the 15th of Nisan, because the only Yom Tov that comes out in Nisan is Pesach. On Pesach, you could say it's Rosh Hashanah for all of the holidays, because it's the month of Nisan. But Pesach is the 15th day of Nisan. It's not the first day of Nisan. So how can the first day of Nisan become a Rosh Hashanah for Yom Tov when it's not a Yom Tov? Amar Reb Chizda, so Reb Chizda answers, the Pshat in the Mishnah is a little different. The Pshat in the Mishnah is, Be'echad b'Nisan, Rosh Hashanah l'Regalim means as follows. Regel Shaboy, Rosh Hashanah l'Regalim. But it doesn't mean on the first day of Nisan is the Rosh Hashanah for Yom Tov. The Rosh Hashanah for Yom Tov is on the 15th day of Nisan. When it comes to Malachim, to kings, Taka, the first day is the Rosh Hashanah. Here you have to say that on the first day of Nisan begins a month that the Regel Shaboy, the Yom Tov in that month, which began on the first day of Nisan, becomes Rosh Hashanah l'Regalim. Rashi says, Regel Shaboy Rosh Hashanah l'Regalim. Regel Shehu b'Chodesh hanichnas be'echad b'Nisan. The holiday that exists in the month that began on the first day of Nisan, who Rosh Hashanah l'Regalim. This is the Rosh Hashanah l'Regalim. So it's not that the Rosh Hashanah is be'echad b'Nisan. The Rosh Hashanah is taka on the 15th day of Nisan. Be'echad b'Nisan, when Nisan begins, in that day, in that month, in other words, that began on that day, you have the Yom Tov Rosh Hashanah l'Regalim.
So you don't need the Be'echad B'Nisan.
For the Malachim, you would need Be'echad b'Nisan. But you're asking, Sof Kol Sof, why would the Mishnah say it? Okay, so you have a pshetel here, but why does the Mishnah have to say it in such a strange oifen?
I understand why now.
Ah.
Because he's not saying Be'echad B'Nisan or Shon Regalim. He says L'Melachim V'Vila Regalim, so he doesn't have to say it again. Be'echad B'Nisan. He doesn't have to say the date again.
Well, he doesn't say the date again. The Echad b'Nisan goes on the Malachim.
So if there would be no Melachim, he would not say Be'echad B'Nisan or Shon Regalim.
He would say B'chamish Asa b'Nisan.
Be'echad B'Nisan, he doesn't have to repeat it.
No, in a Chanami, but it's far a little difficult to understand that the Echad b'Nisan, he says Rosh Hashanah l'Malachim v'Regalim. So the Gemara explains it doesn't mean Be'echad b'Nisan. It means Be'echad b'Nisan on the Malachim means literally. On the Regalim it means the month starts when you say Rosh Hashanah l'Regalim. But Agav, it's brought in Svarim that here you have a makar. It's brought in Svarim that why is Rosh Chodesh and Rosh Hashanah called Rosh? As we learn, Rosh Hashanah means the head of the year. Rosh Chodesh means the head of the month. So does it mean the head of the month? I mean, it's one of these expressions in Hebrew. A head has a month. A year has a month. You could have said Tchilas Hashanah, the beginning of the year, or Tchilas HaChodesh, the beginning of the month. So it's broad that the truth is that Rosh is less meticulous, because the definition of a Rosh is a head. It's not just the beginning of the body, so to speak, when you're looking at the body, so you start with the head, hopefully, and then you go down. So Rosh is just a euphemism, it's just a borrowed term. Instead of saying Tchilas HaChodesh, say Rosh Chodesh, Tchilas Hashanah, Rosh Hashanah. The emphasis is brought, look at the Torah, to the whole arichis about this, that just like a Rosh, a head, it's not just the beginning of the body, but it also includes the nervous system that encompasses the entire body. Everything first exists in the head in order for it to be able to exist in the body. It's the collective nervous system. What is it called? There's a word for it. What?
Consciousness.
Okay. The center of consciousness, the origin of consciousness, every single limb, every single nuance, every single detail in the body first begins in the head. And in the head, you have encompassed the entire organism, and then the head also continues to instruct the organism. So it says that Rosh Hashanah is not Stam at the beginning of the year. It's the head of the year. It's like those 2 days that are really the brain of the year. The same is true Rosh Chodesh, not just the beginning of the month. And that's why there's such significance for Rosh Hashanah, and even for Rosh Chodesh, because Rosh Hashanah really has within it the entire, just like the brain. It's not just the brain. The brain is the entire body. Something chas v'shalom affects in the brain, it affects the whole body. So the same is true with Rosh Chodesh. So in Meila, when you say Be'echad B'Nissen, Rosh Hashanah L'Regalim, it's not stam disconnected from Be'echad B'Nissen. Ultimately, what is Chamish Asa B'Nissen, you have Echad B'Nissen. Just over there, you have it more in a neurological state. And then it comes out, the details get fleshed out during the month. So that's the deeper pshat here, that Be'echad B'Nissen is Regel Shabai is Rosh Hashanah L'Regalim. But it's Regel Shabai already not only in the month that comes and starts Echad B'Nissen, it's already there in Echad B'Nissen on some level.
Why does it say Rosh Chodesh? Why does it say Be'echad B'Nissen? Sure said the Rosh Chodesh Nissen. That's the Lashon Be'echad. You want me at this point?
No. Be'echad B'Nissen Pasha means on the first day of Nissen. I'm explaining why is it called by us Rosh Chodesh. It's called by us Rosh Chodesh because it's similar to a head. Now the question is, okay, so Zayin Azoi. So Tesvav Nissen is Rosh Hashanah L'Regalim. Well, my nafka you have a Rosh Hashanah L'Regalim. Zog the Gemarah, nafka what's the nafka? Who cares? L'noider, l'meikem alei b'bal ta'acher. The nafka l'maisa has to do with one situation. Somebody who makes a pledge, a promise, that there is an isser called bal ta'acher, meaning, if somebody promises, pledges, for example, to bring a behemoth, an animal, to the Beis HaMikdash, which a person could do, you can make a neder, you can make a nadav. Says the Torah that you're not allowed to just procrastinate and bring it in 10 years or in 2 years. The pasuk says in Dvarim, Perek Chav Gimel, Ki sidor neder l'Hashem Elokecha, lo yisa'acher l'shalmai. Don't tarry, don't delay, don't delay to bring it, to pay it. What does this mean? How do you know? What's called delay? Delay means a day, a week, a month, a year, 10 years. What's pshat? I said I'm going to bring a behemoth. Yeah, I didn't give a day. So what does this mean? Bal ta'acher, don't delay. What's called a delay? I have to do it mamach that day. I have 24 hours. How much time do I have? Bal ta'acher. So the Mishnah is telling us here that din, that Pesach is Rosh Hashanah L'Regalim, that when it comes to a neder, l'meikem alei b'bal ta'acher, when do you start violating the mitzvah of bal ta'acher? Don't delay it. So we will see Pesach is significant for this, because Pesach is Rosh Hashanah for bal ta'acher. What does this mean? Reb Shimon Our Mishnah follows the view of Reb Shimon, and here you should always know whenever it says Reb Shimon, it means Reb Shimon without an extra name, it means Reb Shimon ben Yochai. What's the connection here to Bal Ta'acher, Reb Shimon ben Yochai? So the Gemara starts explaining. The Tanya we learned to Braisa, Echad HaNoider, Ve'echad HaMakdish, Ve'echad HaMarich. Kivan Sha'avru Alav Shloisha Regalim, Oiver Bebal Ta'acher. 3 situations. Echad HaNoider, Echad HaMakdish, Echad HaMarich. Echad HaNoider means somebody makes a pledge and he says, for example, Damai Alai, my money, my value is on me. I want to give that amount to the Beis HaMikdash. Damai, my money, alai. What does it mean? How much am I worth? So basically, a person is priceless. There's no price on a person. But the best you can do, you do. So you ask a question: if this person would sell himself for life, if he would sell himself as a servant for life, how much would he be? How much would he sell for? So let's say it's $1 million, $10 million. That money I have to give to the Beis HaMikdash. And the Beis HaMikdash does with it whatever it wants. It's called money for Bedek HaBayis, for the upkeep of the Beis HaMikdash. That's called Noider. Makdish means I actually take a particular object and I dedicate it to the Beis HaMikdash. It could be an iPhone, it could be a watch, it could be money, of course, it could be anything, any object that you have, you're giving away to the Beis HaMikdash, which they might use, or probably they won't have use of it, but they'll be able to sell it and have money. The next thing is Echad HaMayrich. Mayrich is a unique situation. You don't just say it also means you say my value is on me, but you don't say Damai Alai, like by Noider, then you have to look how much the person is, so to speak, worth on the market. Mayrich means a person says my erech, my estimated value is on me. And here, the Torah gives a specific amount that a person has to give if he says, or she says, Erki Alai, or you can also say, your Erech is on me. I look at somebody and I say, your value is on me. Or you could say, damecha alai. So if I say to somebody else, your value is on me, we have to estimate how much that person would be worth, quote unquote, and give that money. Erkecha alai, your erech is on me, the Torah clearly says, a fixed rate that never changes. It's a fixed rate for a male, it's a fixed rate for a female, and it also depends on gender, and depends also on age. And it never changes, no difference what the person looks like, how functional the person is, how skilled the person is, how strong the person is, how capable the person is. It's a fixed rate. So therefore, if I say Erki Alai, I have to give that. So Braisa says, once 3 Yomim Tovim passed, and you didn't give it, you transgress the mitzvah of Baal Ta'acher, don't delay your pledge to Hashem, to the Beis HaMikdash. What's Shloisha Regalim? So we have the 3 basic biblical holidays, Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot. So let's say I made a pledge on Lag BaOmer, which is in the month of Iyar. So what do I have? I have Shavuos, I have Sukkot, and I have Pesach. Once Pesach finishes and I didn't bring it, I transgress the sin of Baal Ta'acher, don't delay. That's what the Braisa says. Reb Shimon argues and says, no. Shloisha Regalim Kesidron. You have to have the 3 Yomim Tovim passing Kesidron in their order that the Torah specifies, the 3 Yomim Tovim, which is Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkos, and the Chag HaMatzos Tchila. And Chag HaMatzos, Pesach, Passover, has to be the first of the 3. So first Pesach, then was Shavuos, and then was Sukkos. This is what Reb Shimon ben Yochai used to explain, that regalim, whenever we say that if the holidays pass and you didn't bring your pledge, you transgress a mitzvah in the Torah, pa'amim shloisha. Sometimes you have to wait for 3 to pass. Pa'amim arba, sometimes 4. Pa'amim chamisha, sometimes 5. Ketzad, how? Nada lifnei Pesach. If I make the pledge before Pesach, say, anywhere between Sukkot and Pesach, after the end of Tishrei till Pesach, I make a pledge. So then, Shloisha. Then I transgress if 3 Yomim Tovim passed, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. Lifnei Atzeres. If I made the neder before Shavuos, Chamisha. Now you have to wait for 5 holidays to pass, which means you have much more time. You have Shavuos, you have Sukkot, but Reb Shimon said it needs to be Kesidron. It has to be in the order of the Yomim Tovim to have Baal Ta'acher. You just had Shavuos and Sukkot, so you have to go Pesach, but it's not enough to have Pesach. Because Pesach, you only had Pesach, you still need 3 Yomim Tovim in the order. So you have another Shavuos and you have another Sukkot. So you have 5 Yomim Tovim. You have Shavuos, Sukkot, Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot. And finally, Lifnei HaChag, if you made your pledge before Chag, which means before Sukkot, then you have Arba. Then you have 4 Yomim Tovim, you have Sukkot, and then you have the order, Pesach, and then Shavuos, and then Sukkot. Rashi says, Nafka min the Rosh Hashanah le'inyan neder, shu muzu b'bal ta'acher, v'tala ha'kosa v'churoi shloisha regalim. The Torah clearly, the Torah intimates that the delay is only if you wait 3 Yomim Tovim. V'ashminon masnisin, she'eino yover at she'yei Pesach rishon l'shloshton. The novelty of our Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah is you only wail transgresses if Pesach was the first. She'im avrol of shaloi kesidron, if it passed not in the order, you're not over. Echad hanoider oimer dami alai sheshama noise ke'evet. If you say dami alai, so you estimate him as a slave. Echad hamakdish dover lebed kabayis. Echad hamarich sha'amar erki alai sha'erech katzu b'toyre k'fishanov. Pa'amim shloisha, pa'amim shabal tacha b'shloisha negalim. Pa'amim chamisha, the be'inon kesidra. That is why Nisan is Rosh Hashanah l'regalim. Who cares that Pesach is the first year when Yom Tovim start? This is the anniversary when Yom Tovim begin. What's the difference? Call Shavuos the first, call Sukkot the first, call Pesach the first. What's the difference? The difference is that the Torah says don't delay through 3 Yom Tovim. It has to be 3 Yom Tovim that begin with the anniversary when Yom Tovim begin. So therefore, if I make a neder before Shavuos or before Sukkot, it doesn't work. I have to have the 3 Nedarim, the 3 Regalim, passing in the order with the Rosh Hashanah first, which is Pesach. And that's of course the view of Reb Shimon, because the first time in the Braisa said, no difference the order. Any 3 Yomim Tovim that pass, you transgress Baal Ta'acher. Today, not l'malachim and not l'regalim, right?
Why if you make a pledge in the shul? If you make a pledge to the shul, you have the...
then the board will be on you. Before Shal Shagalim, certainly not Shittas Reb Shimon. Sagt die Gemarah Tanur Rabbanan. The rabbis taught, we first, of course, have to understand, where did they get this Pesach Shavuos Sukkah? It says, Bal Ta'acha, don't delay. Okay, so you need some measurement. What's called delay? You're going to make for every person something else. You live 10 days away, so you have 10 days. He lives 15 days away, it's 15 days. So the Gemara is now going to discuss the whole idea of Bal Ta'acher. Tanur Rabbanan, the rabbis taught in a Bryce.
If you make a neder that I don't want to wait for 3 years old,
Then you got to do it, yeah.
well, it's not like
Yeah, that's part of your neder. No, that's part of your neder, yeah. If I say I'm bringing it this
As long
afternoon.
as you make like a blanket neder,
Right. You just say I want to be makdish this behemoth, yeah.
The longer would also be the same thing.
I mean, a neder other than
Tanur Rabbanan, the rabbis taught. Chayave Hadomin. Anybody who's obligated in money. What do we mean obligated in money? He says, Dami Alai, my value or your value, I'm giving to the Beis HaMikdash. Next. Ha'erchen. Erchen, we just explained. Somebody says Erki Alai or Erkech Alai. Your estimated value, the way the Torah prescribes, the way the Torah articulates it is on me. Next. Ha'charamin. Charamin is a third category that we didn't have before. Somebody who says this object is going to be a cherem for Bedek Kabayas. Generally, cherem means somebody consecrates something. Here, cherem doesn't mean excommunicate. It means excommunicate in the sense that nobody can use it because you're consecrating it, you're being it makdash for the Beis HaMikdash. Cherem is another form of hekdash. We say cherem in our vocabulary, you put somebody in cherem, you ban them, you excommunicate them. Here it means actually you sanctify them. Maybe that's also what happens when you put somebody in cherem. They become legends, right? They become legends. But here, halachically, it becomes holy. That's what cherem means. Now, there were two types of cheremim. There was a cherem that you give to the koyanim, and there's a cherem that you give to the Beis HaMikdash. So somebody says, Nechasam Mela, let's say, this house, or this bicycle, or whatever, this car, or this anything, is cherem lebedek kabayis. It becomes hektish for the bedek kabayis, and one can't just benefit from it. So, these are cheremim. The hekdeshus. The next is hekdeshus, meaning you should take an object and you sanctify it, you make it hekdesh. Or chatoyes v'ashamas. Somebody's obligated to bring a carbon chatas, a carbon asham. These were for various sins that a person committed, that he's obligated to bring an offering, or she's obligated, or oilus or shlamim, or a carbon oil or shlamim, which wouldn't be for a sin. It would be a pledge. A person wants to give a carbon oil or a carbon shlamim, or tzedakahs, or you have tzedakah. Somebody pledges charity. Now, as we're going to see, he asked a good question. Does the din of Bal Ta'acher apply to tzedakah, which of course would be very relevant today? People constantly make pledges for tzedakah. So here it seems like that tzedakah fits into the category of Bal Ta'acher. We're going to see there's going to be qualifications about that. But here it says tzedakah. I make a pledge simply for charity, not for the Beis HaMikdash, for poor people. Or maisrus. A person separates maisrus. Maisrus would include here truma and meiser, meaning I separate the parts of the grain that are going to, or the produce, or the vegetables, or the fruits that are going to the koyanim, are going meiser rishon to the Leviim, or are going to the poor people, meiser ani, or are going to Yerushalayim. Next, b'chor. B'chor is, the old is the male. We have a mitzvahs essay that when a person's cattle or flock has a baby, so the first male born b'chor, I have to give to the kohen. It belongs to the kohen, and the kohen offers it as a carbon in the Beis HaMikdash, and then he eats it with his people, like we say every morning, ha'b'chor, v'amaiser v'apesach, skotchem kalim, ha'b'chor nechal la'kohen, b'chol ir, b'chol machal, l'shtem v'layla echad, etc. That's the b'chor. Then you have meiser. Meiser here doesn't mean from grain. Meiser is meiser behema. There's a mitzvah to give away, to separate every year, a tenth of the animals that were born that year. You basically bring in all your young sheep and your young calf that were born in that year. We learned it in the first mission of Meiser behema, into a pen. You make a narrow opening so two don't go out in one shot. And when they go out, you count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the 10th one gets dyed with a red color, and you say it's meiser and it's holy, but it belongs to you. You bring it to Yerushalayim, you offer it as a sacrifice, the fat gets burnt on the Mizbeach, and you eat the meat with you, your family, or any guests in Yerushalayim, like we say again in the morning, ha'b'chor v'ha'meiser, b'chor nechal ha'kohen ha'meiser l'chalad. Next, Pesach. The Korban Pesach, which a person brings Erev Pesach. Every Jew is obligated to bring a Korban Pesach. We're going to have to understand exactly how Pesach fits into this brayso where we're talking about Bal Ta'acher, when you're supposed to bring it on Pesach. Next, Leket, Shikcha, and Peah. These are the three charities that a person was obligated to give constantly when they were harvesting their field. Leket basically means 1 or 2 stalks that fall down from the sickle while you're harvesting your grain, either from the sickle or from your hand. You're holding your hand and they fall down, 1 or 2. You're not allowed to lift them up. You have to leave them for poor people. Shikcha is after you harvested and you turn them into bundles, into sheaves, and you forget 1 or 2, not more, 1 or 2 sheaves, or you forget to cut a little grain and then you come back and you're like, oh, I want to retrieve it. No, if you forget, you have to leave it for the poor people. And the last is Peah, which means the Torah says the corner of a field you have to leave for poor people and not harvest it. All these things.
I'm leaving it for poor people, and
They come take it.
I get, and they don't take it.
They can.
You want to know what's a Bal Ta'acher? Okay, 1 minute. Very good question. A few of these things are hard to understand. Korban Pesach is also we have to understand. Right.
Korban Pesach, you have to use one, so you have to use it.
Right.
Pesach.
You understand what he's asking? What's the Bal Ta'acher? You left the corner of your field, so what's the issue? The poor people didn't come, so whose problem is it? First of all, it's not going to happen. They'll come. By them, there's no Bal Ta'acher. They're hungry. They're going to come. But what's here the Bal Ta'acher? Okay, we'll see. Huh? So what the Brisa said that you have Chayavei Domin, Erkin, Charamin, Hektish, Chatoyes, Vashamas, Oilus, Shlomim, Maisrus, Pchor, Meiser, and Pesach, and Leket Shikha and Peah. All these, Kivin, Shavra, and Shloisher, Regalim. The moment 3 Yom and Tovim passed, Oiver Bal Ta'acher, you transgress Bal Ta'acher. Pesach, we're going to discuss. The question now right away is, what's by Leket Shikha and Peah Bal Ta'acher? They're in the field. You left it in the field. You forgot your sheaf. In the morning you come back, oh, I forgot. Or later you come back, you want to take it? No, you can't take it, as long as you forgot. So what's the Bal Ta'acher? You left it in the field. You left it in the field. So Tosfos says that it's talking about a situation that you didn't leave them in the field. You took them to your home or wherever, to your silo, and you're thinking you're going to give them to poor people. So if 3 Yom Tovim passed and you didn't give it, then you are over on Bal Ta'acher. So the Gemarah Reb Shimon Oimer, Reb Shimon says, Shloisher Regalim Kesidim v'Chag HaMatzos Tchila. The 3 Yom Tovim have to pass in the order, and Pesach has to come first. Reb Meir Oimer, we have a third view, Reb Meir. Kivan Shavar Alein Regel Echad over Bal Ta'acher. One holiday passes and you did not bring all these pledges, any of these pledges. For example, your Maisa you didn't give to the Levi, and Pesach passed. Shimon says Pesach Shavuos Sukkos. Pesach passed, Reb Meir says you violated the Bal Ta'acher. Reb Eliezer ben Yaakov Oimer, no. Kivan Shavar Alein Shnei Regalim over Bal Ta'acher. You have 2 holidays. Reb Eliezer ben Reb Shimon Oimer, Reb Eliezer, the son of Reb Shimon bar Yochai, says Kivan Shavar Alein Chag HaSukkos over Alein Bal Ta'acher. It's 1 Yom Tov you have to wait for, which is Sukkos, and then you're over on Bal Ta'acher. That means, according to the Belazar, sometimes it's only 1 holiday. If you made a pledge before Sukkos, Sukkos passes and you didn't bring it, you're over. What happens if you made a pledge before Shavuos? He would hold you have 2, because you have to wait for Sukkos. And what if you did before Pesach? He would also hold you have 3. But the chiddush of him is that right before Sukkos is only Sukkos you're already going to be over. So how many opinions do we have? We have Tanakama, the first one, who says any 3 holidays that pass, no difference the order. Reb Shimon gives you much more time because he says you need 3 in the order. So sometimes you have 5, right? If you did it before Shavuos, you have Shavuos Sukkos, Pesach Shavuos Sukkos. Reb Meir is the most stringent. What does he say? You have 1 Yom Tov and any Yom Tov. So if you made the pledge Erev Pesach, you only have Pesach. That was Reb Meir. That's the third opinion. The fourth opinion, Reb Eliezer says you have 2 holidays and any 2 holidays. Pesach Shavuos, Shavuos Sukkos, Sukkos Shavuos, whatever. And then finally, the 5th opinion is Reb Eliezer, the son of Reb Shimon, who says you need Sukkos, and Sukkos is what makes you be over on Bal Ta'acher. So this Brisa added another 3 opinions that we didn't know from the previous Brisa. In addition to Tanakama and Reb Shimon, we have Reb Meir, Reb Eliezer ben Yaakov, and Reb Elazar, the son of Reb Shimon. Now the question, of course, is where do they come up with this? Stam, he decides this, he decides this, he decides this. They had to have some halach how to define this. So this is now what the Gemarah is going to clarify. Our Mishnah we already settled. Rosh Hashanah l'Regalim is only according to Reb Shimon bar Yochai because the other ones don't believe Pesach is Rosh Hashanah l'Regalim. They hold that, practically speaking, it could start with any Yom Tov. So it's Reb Shimon. That we already established. Our Mishnah follows Reb Shimon. Now the question is, what's the mahalach behind all of these views?
I'll give you a word Baal Ta'achar for like Leka and Shikha, because Baal Ta'achar is a violation of a neder. A neder is an expression of the mouth, and Leka and Shikha you don't express, they just fall.
Right, so that's why Tosfos says, that it's, and the Tosfos the top, Leka Shikha Peya, that it's talking about, right, if you took them, if you left them in the field, you're right. But if you actually take them, so now you have an obligation, the Torah puts on you the obligation, even though you don't have to be at neder, the Torah already consecrates. The Torah gives it for them.
Of someone who made a neder and now didn't fulfill it, but neder has to be with kiyafi with your mouth, no?
Mitzad the din neder, but here the point is that you're obligated to pay it. You're right.
Yeah, well, the offer is only a violation of someone who doesn't fulfill his neder. But if you never meet a neder, how can you get into the violation?
No, but the logic behind it is that you owe it.
I understand the case that fell, you fell, and then you picked it up afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now you're becoming a delivery man.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, it's not only when one makes a neder, then he gets.
The point is, when you make a neder, you become obligated. Once you're obligated, you have to pay. The obligation. So in many cases, I have to make a neder. If I don't make a neder, I'm not obligated. In these cases, I don't have to make a neder. The Torah obligates me in these taxes, so to speak. These charity taxes.
Like the Torah made you express it with your mouth.
The point is that I'm obligated to pay. Like he says, I'm a delivery boy. I took it from the field.
Is only a violation of someone who made a Darius and neder.
No, that's what we're saying. Like Sa'achar is not. Right.
I thought it was Torah.
Yeah. Now we still have to explain Korban Pesach, which the Gemara is going to discuss on Daf Hey, how Korban Pesach works. No, the Pasuk says by neder. That you're right. The Pasuk says by neder. Consider neder. Yeah, that you're right. Yeah.
There's an obligation.
I know that, but so the Torah makes it as if you expressed it, because it's a
And
requirement.
then you have the harvest season is the time to do it.
Yeah.
Wait outside of the harvest season, I think Tyson says.
Yeah.
That's about
You count them when you walk into the cat.
Yeah.
You have to say that, yeah, there's actually the rights that you count.
Now I just want to clarify about tzedakah. When it comes to tzedakah, if you'll take a look on the Avdalah Amud Aleph, the Gemarah Tosfos, the second Tosfos on the bottom, tzedakah or maasros. Tzedakah or maasros is just an important question. V'hada Amar Rava lekaman u'tzedakah mechayev alei la'alter. Rava is going to tell us that by tzedakah you're over Baal Ta'achar la'alter. La'alter means right away. So here you're telling me that for tzedakah, any tzedakah pledge you have, Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkos, if I make a pledge for tzedakah, we're talking about tzedakah for poor people. So Tosfos says it's not a contradiction. Hana mili dekaimi aniyim. Rava was talking about a case where you have poor people that are waiting for the pledge. They're waiting for the food. They're waiting for the money.
They don't even
so you say, yeah, they say Baal Tachas right away. Avaloi mechayev lehadure basrayu kol zman shelo shleisher regalim. You don't have to run. If you have aniyim that are waiting, then Baal Tachar is right away. When it says here that only after 3 Yom Tovim you're over on Baal Tachar, is that there's no poor people in front of you. So now you actually have to go search and find your poor people in order to be able to fulfill your pledge. On this you say you have shloisha, shloisha regalim. The Rashba, however, says that there's no contradiction. He says differently. He says when Rava says you have to give tzedakah right away, he means that without it, you transgress a mitzvah's essay which says moitzes vasecha tishmer. You have to guard what comes out of your lips. As the Gemarah will bring this pasuk later. So therefore, when a person says, I'm going to give tzedakah, they have to do it right away. Here we're talking about mitzvah din of Baal Ta'achar, which is a special loisasa. Delaying it, it's not called delaying it until 3 regalim pass away. So it's not a contradiction. That's how he reconciles the contradiction. And then the Ran says, let me just finish it. The Ran says a third thing. He says that by tzedakah you are over Baal Ta'achar right away. Only by something that depends on the Beis Hamikdash, like karbonis, do you have 3 regalim. It says in the Braisa here that you're over by tzedakah after 3 regalim. He says, it means that after 3 regalim you're for sure over. But taka, the detail of tzedakah would be earlier. In other words, everything goes into the umbrella that if you wait 3 Yom Tovim you're over. But it happens to be by tzedakah, which is not for the Beis Hamikdash, you don't get this delay. You have to do it right away. When it comes to the Beis Hamikdash, that's how the Ran learns. A little different.
The case you make a neder. It's not that you don't make a neder.
What?
But the case of letting you're making a neder. Something fell on the floor. It doesn't belong to you. by virtue of you picking it up,
That is your neder.
that is your neder that you have to bring it to where it has to go.
Wonderful. Not vocalized. You're saying by taking the leket from the field, you're making a
You're
neder.
making a neder that
Not vocal.
But it says kiyakli, I think it's a requirement of another to verbalize it. It's one of like Dennis and whatever it's called.
if you borrow something from somebody.
Doesn't say kiyafli. It says ki siddur neder l'Hashem alekecha lo'isa'acher l'shalma. Ki siddur neder l'Hashem alekecha.
Which I have the altar if so the altar is allowed, right? It's a lois says it.
No.
So if I say I'm going to give tzedakah that second, if you don't give it that second, you chayav says the altar. You have to give it sometime to give it. You're gonna be chayav allowed to watch someone I give tzedakah. If he's chayav that second, until he doesn't give it, he has a lav. La altar means right away. You have to give him a minute, 10 minutes.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Doesn't mean it means I'll be a normal. Well, we'll see. The Gemara is going to explain it. I just want to see because it's very interesting. If you take a look at the Teves before Hacharamin, Ben Chemer Gavoy, Ben Chemer Koyanim, you have to give Yizbaltach. Rabbeinu Tam Pasak. The tzedakah shepoiskim litim biyad gabai. If I say I'm going to give the tzedakah to the gabai tzedakah, meaning to the person who's raising the funds, yeshna b'balta'acher m'lemoister legabai. So if I don't give it to the gabai, I transgress balta'acher. Ve'eina gabai b'balta'acher m'lechalka. But the gabai is not over on balta'acher if he delays. Aval masha'adam noider b'yad atzmi l'kashayir tza'eda b'balta'acher. However, what a person promises to give to poor people when he wants to, there's no isser of balta'acher. That's how Rabbi Natam paskin. In other words, if he says he's giving it to the gabai, so then he has to give it to the gabai. There's an Indian of balta'acher. The question is how long balta'acher is. That's what the next Tosfos says. That you have, if there's poor people here, or there's no two people, if there's no poor people here. Stam, when a person gives a neder, he's going to give when he wants to give tzedakah to poor people, then there's no issue of balta'acher. Okay. Now the Gemara tries to understand this. What is the Gemara? My time at the Tanakama. What is the reason of Tanakama who says that Baal Ta'acher is any 3 holidays, even if not in the order? So the Gemara here has a whole cheshbon. As usual, it's very brief, and Rashi explains it to us. So for this, we have to remember the pasuk says in Parshas Re'eh as follows: it says, "Shomer," we read it on the Yomim Tovim. "Shomer es chodesh ha'aviv, v'asisa Pesach l'Hashem Elokecha." You should guard the month of spring and celebrate Pesach for Hashem. It's Parshas Re'eh. The same parsha, a few psukim later, it says, "V'asisa Chag Shvuos l'Hashem Elokecha." You should make Shvuos. The same parsha, a few psukim later, says, "Chag HaSukkos Tasa L'cha Shivas Yamim." So we have all the 3 Yomim Tovim, a mitzvah, and we read it in Aser to Aser, Parshas Re'eh on the Yomim Tovim, Pesach Shvuos Sukkot. A few psukim later, we have the famous pasuk, "Shalosh Pa'amim B'Shana." Yeira kol schurchas pnei Hashem alakecha b'makom asher yivcha b'chag hamatzos u'b'chag hashvuos u'b'chag hasukos v'lo yeira as pnei Hashem reika, which most people know because we say it in the Musaf.
So Shmini says, Chag b'nei Pesach counted because you're there ready for Sukkot.
Right. So it says you should come 3 times a year. Every male should come, so to speak, to see the face of Hashem in the place that he chooses. When? Chag hamatzos, Shvuos, and Sukkos, and do not show up to the face of Hashem empty-handed. Frag the Gemara, Michde. After knowing this, Michde minayu solik. It says Shalosh Pa'amim B'Shana right after it tells you about 3 holidays. It says make Pesach, make Shvuos, make Sukkos. 3 times a year, show up to Yerushalayim, show up to the Beis HaMikdash. Minayu solik. You're coming from discussing these 3. Lami lilamadelu michtav b'chag hamatzos, b'chag hashvuos, b'chag hasukos. The Torah, where every word is meticulous, just to say with the bare necessity to understand. Why do you have to repeat Chag HaMatzos, Chag HaShavuos, Chag HaSukkos? You could have said Shalosh Pa'amim Ha'ela B'Shana Yira Kol Schurcha, or even just Shalosh Pa'amim. You're going to invent 3 new dates. You just spoke about Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkos. So what are you going to? You're going to turn it into Rish Chodesh Iyar, Rish Chodesh Sivan, Rish Chodesh Elul. You have to come 3 Yomim Tovim Shalosh Pa'amim. You want to be mamish precise? Say Shalosh Pa'amim Eila B'Shana. These 3 times that we just discussed at length. Yira Kol Schurcha. Why do you have to repeat it? Shma Mina. So from here, Chazal learned out a din. What's the din? Everything, they looked at the whole Torah, the bird's eye view. We have a pasuk, Baal Ta'acher, don't delay your pledges. We don't know what a delay is. They said, this pasuk came for that. Shma mina leBaal Ta'acher. The Torah is trying to give us a shear for Baal Ta'acher. Chag HaMatzos, Chag HaShavuos, Chag HaSukkos is not only a time to come. That I already know. It's also a time to come Chag HaMatzos, Chag HaShavuos, and Sukkos, and bring all of your pledges. But it's not just an obligation to come. You have for this Pesach and Shavuos and Sukkos, and if all of them pass and you didn't bring it, then you're over on Baal Ta'achir if you did not pay up your pledge. If so, we have a very nice Geschmack Hemshech in the Pasuk. Shalosh Pam Bashana Yerachal Schorchas Pnei Hashem Alekechem Amakom Asher Yivchar. We already know what he 3 times is, but the pasuk repeats: "B'chag hamatzos, b'chag hashvuos, b'chag hasukkos, v'lo yeroas pnei Hashem reikam." Don't show up empty-handed. What does it mean? It means that not only empty-handed from things that you had to bring on Yom Tov, also empty-handed from all the pledges that you made before these 3 Yom Tov.
In any order.
In any order, yeah. Even though V'lo Pnei Hashem Reikam is referring to the things that you bring on Yom Tov. For example, there was a mitzvah to bring an Oilas Re'iyah, a carbon oiler when you came for Yom Tov. There was a mitzvah to bring, as we'll see, a carbon Shlamim. There was a mitzvah to bring a carbon Chagiga. Nonetheless, when the pasuk repeats B'chag HaMatzos, B'chag HaShavuos, B'chag HaSukkos, it means that even without the mitzvah of seeing him, you're obligated to bring something if you have a neder in order to pay up. So that's the source of Baal Ta'achir. Rashi says, top of Dalet Amud Beis, Michde Menayu Salik, Sh'amar HaKosov, Shalosh Pam Bashani Yerachal Schorcha B'chag HaMatzos, Mehem HaYa'ila, you're coming from these. Mehem HaYa'ila means you're just ascending from discussing the holidays. For Kosov L'mayla, B'inyan Shomer Es Chodesh Aviv, Shiva Shavuos Tispela, Chag HaSukkos Tasalach, Lama Li L'meder L'maninu B'parshas Chag HaSukkos. Now, when you're done with Sukkos, in middle of Sukkos, you start talking about these 3 holidays again. Shmamin al Baal Ta'achir, the Hachi Kamar, Hayunirin L'fonav L'shalom Nidreichem V'loy Savoy Reikem. Don't come empty-handed. Show up, not just for Yom Tov, but with your pledges. That's Tana Kama. Reb Shimon says, no. Even though the Torah repeats all 3 to tell you Baal Ta'achir, Einei Tzorich Loimar B'chag HaSukkos Sheboy Diber HaKosov. Chag HaShavuos and Chag HaMatzos he spoke about earlier in the Parsha. But Sukkot doesn't have to repeat, because this pasuk is in middle of the psukim of Pesukos. Chag HaSukkos Tasalach, and then as he discussed Shivas Yom, as he's discussing the halachas of Sukkos, he says Shalosh Pam Bashana. So he could have said, Yerachal Schorchas Pnei Hashem Alekech B'makom Asher Yivchar, U'b'chag HaMatzos, U'b'chag HaShavuos, Shalosh Pam Bashana. He's talking about Sukkos. Say, show up to Hashem and on Chag HaMatzos and on Chag HaShavuos 3 times a year, and you would know Sukkos also. Lama Nemar. Why does it say B'chag HaSukkos? Loimar Sheza Acharain. To teach you that Sukkos has to be the last. In other words, you have to have the 3 holidays passing in the order. First Pesach, then Shavuos, then Sukkos, and then you're over on Baal Ta'achir. Rashi says, Ein tzarich loimar Chag HaSukkos avka shechoizrin leBaal Ta'achir. Even though you're repeating the 3 for Baal Ta'achir, it's the middle of the parsha of Sukkos. So just say you should show up to Hashem, and also Chag HaMatzos and Chag HaShavuos 3 times a year. The answer is Shaboy Dibir HaKosov Lama Nemar Loima Shaza Acher and Atri Yavarosim Kaseder Hazeh. That's why he has to say Sukkos at the end. So you need 3. But what I'm arguing with you is that not only you need any 3 or all 3 in any order, you need them in this order where Sukkos is going to be last. In other words, Pesach is going to be Rosh Hashanah L'Regalim. Reb Meir, my time. What about Reb Meir, who says you have 1 Yom Tov and that's enough? Any Yom Tov that passes, you're over Baal Ta'achir. The Ksiv, the pasuk says in Parshas Re'eh, let's quote the whole pasuk. Kiyim el hamokim asher yivchar. Adonai Eloheichem mikol shiftechem losum es shmoi sham l'shichnoi sidrishu uvasa shama. Ve'iveisim shama Eloheichem v'zivcheichem es maser seichem es tumas yadchem v'nedreichem v'nedveiseichem uvchoydes b'karchem v'tzoinchem. If you have the psukim on the right, on the side of your page, most new Gemaras have it, you have the full pasuk. The pasuk speaks about in Parshas Re'eh, you shouldn't bring your offerings anywhere. You should come to the place that Hashem chose to place His name there, where His Shechina is. You should come there and bring there all of your karbanos. So it says uvasa shama v'havesam shama. So literally, everyone teaches. What's the literal interpretation? If you have a carbon and you want to bring it, or you're obligated, you have to come there and bring it there. You can't just bring it in your house and offer it in your courtyard. Reb Meir is teaching, no. Uvasa shama, when you're coming there, why are you coming there? You have to come there. Why are you coming there? Because it's one of the Shalosh Regalim, Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkos. So then, V'havesim Shama, then you have to bring all your karbanas that you pledged, even if this is the first Yom Tov. Rashi says, I'm sorry, so that's the Chiddush of Reb Meir. The Chiddush of Reb Meir is that Uvasa Shama V'havesim Shama. Uvasa means not you should come there, not anywhere else. Uvasa means when you're going to come there, and you have to come there because it's Yom Tov. So you're making a liyal irregular, you come to the Beis HaMikdash. When you come, you have to bring your karbanos. Because Uvasa Shama is talking about only a time when you're mechuyev to come. When you're mechuyev to come. Let's say you come to Yerushalayim Stam in the middle of the year, and you have a neder, you don't have to bring your karbanos, because Uvasa Shama means a time that you're obligated to come. In other words, one of the three Yom Tov. Frag the Gemarah v'Rabbanan,
You're only obligated to come once.
No.
Every year.
No,
Obligated to come all three?
all three. V'Rabbanan. What about the Rabbanan? In other words, Tanakama, Reb Shimon, Reb Elazar, Reb Elazar. What do they say? That Meir has here a good vart? No. It says, Uvasa Shama v'Havesim Shama, to teach me when I come I have to bring. And for the Gemara, Hahu le'essay. Ubasa Shama v'Havesim Shama is teaching me an essay, meaning there's a mitzvah's essay to bring my karbanis in the first Yom Tov. And if I didn't, I transgressed the essay of a Havesim. But it's not a Bal Ta'achir. Hahula essay, Rashi says the mitzvah's essay, Alav la'aviyah b'regel rish. Reb Meir says, Kivad amalei rachmana aisi. Since the Torah says bring, so this is the time. Loi v'loi aisi, you didn't bring, memela kamlei b'bal ta'achir. So automatically you were over on Bal Ta'achir. So Reb Meir connects the two. Rashi says, Reb Meir, Amalach, Kivan Amalach Harachmana Aisi Beregel Yishin, Zeus Man Shekavalai. This becomes the time for it. Vim Icharem in Amoyed have a Ichor. And if you delayed it from that Yom Tif, it's an Ichor. Umemela Kamle Bal Ta'achir. So automatically you're over on Bal Ta'achir. In other words, you have here an argument. Everyone says that the first Yom Tif is the time to bring it. Because it says when you come, you should bring all your karbanas. So if I made a pledge, I should bring it the first Yom Tov. What happens if I didn't bring it? So the Meir says, once the Torah says bring it at this time, this is the time of the carbon. Since this is the time of the carbon, therefore, if you don't, you're over on Bal Ta'achir. So he says, even one Yom Tov, you're over on Bal Ta'achir. The other Tanaim say, no, there's a mitzvah says to bring it the first Yom Tov, but if you don't bring it the first Yom Tov, you're still not over on Bal Ta'achir. Unless you wait for the three Yom Tovim.
What does Ramir do with the superfluous words?
Very good, very good. You mean Chag HaMatzos, Chag HaShavuos, Chag HaSukkos?
Yeah,
Okay, 1 minute. But Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov, my timer, he says two. What's up is two? Ksiv, interestingly, he says, there's a pasuk in Parshas Pinchas. It speaks there about all the karbanos of Musaf that you bring through all the holidays. The pasuk says, Eile tasu la'Hashem b'mayadechem. These are the offerings you should do for Hashem during all your holidays. Levad minidreichem v'nidvaisechem lo'leisechem l'nchaisechem l'niskechem l'shalmechem. Besides your pledges for all of the other karbanos. Clearly it says, Eile tasu Hashem b'moyadechem. This is what you should do specially for Yom Tov, besides all the other pledges. Miyat moyadim shnayim. Moyadechem is plural. Minimum plural is two. So you learn from here that you have moyadechem in two Yomim Tovim. You should bring these karbanos besides the other ones you have to bring in these two Yomim Tovim, meaning your other pledges. So you have two. V'Rabbana. What about the rabbis who disagree with this? They say you don't have to wait for two. It's not about two. You have three. Hahulakid Rabbi Yoina. They use it for Rabbi Yoina's teaching. Rabbi Yoina says, Hukshu kol ha'me'adim kulam zelazeh. Mayadechem is trying to equate all the Yom Tovim to each other, to tell you. It was a klal, a principle, that every Yom Tov they brought a soyer chatas, a goat for a sin offering. So he says, Shekula mechaprin al tumas mikdash v'kadashim. All of the sin offerings of a goat that were brought collectively by the community every single Yom Tov, they all came for the same reason. To atone for tumas mikdash and kadashav, meaning an impure person who went into the Beis HaMikdash, or ate karbanos while he was impure, or the other way around. He was pure, but the meat of the karbanos was impure, and he ate it as a pure person. Either he was impure, the flesh was impure, or he went into the Beis HaMikdash as impure. So just like the goat of Rosh Chodesh that was brought is mechaper for tumas mikdash v'kadashav, All the, over there it says clearly, Losses is Avoin Ha'eder and Shmini. So the B'yoyna says, B'maya Deichem refers to equate to all the karbanas that they all come for the same reason. For Rebbe Elazar ben Reb Shimon, my timer, what's the reason for Rebbe Elazar ben Reb Shimon? What did he say? He says you wait for Sukkot and that's it. The Tanya, Rebbe Elazar ben Reb Shimon Omer, Lo Yomer b'chag HaSukkos sheboy diber HaKosov. He quotes the same argument like his father. It should have said Chag HaMatzos and Chag HaShavuos, because you already know Sukkos. Lama Nemar, Loymar Shezeh Goyrim. This creates the Baal Ta'acher. You don't bechlal need 3 Yomim Tovim. In other words, he has the same problem like his father Reb Shimon, but their solution is different. Reb Shimon says, why does it say B'chag HaSukkos? To teach me, Chag HaSukkos is last. Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkos. Rebbe Elazar, in other words, Ze'acheren. Rebbe Elazar says not Ze'acheren, Ze'goyrim. Not that it's the last one. It's the only one. The moment you have Sukkos, you're completely good. The moment you have Sukkos, that's Goyrim, the Inyan of Baal Ta'acher. Very good. Frag the Gemarah, good question. Reb Meir, Reb Elazar ben Yaakov, Hai b'chag HaMatzos, b'chag HaShavuos, b'chag HaSukkos, my darsha. Which is really a question also on Reb Elazar when it comes to Matzos and Shavuos. Chag HaMatzos and Shavuos. By Reb Meir and Reb Elazar, it's a bigger question because it's all 3 that you don't need. Why? Because they don't hold Baal Ta'acher as 3. Reb Meir holds it's 1, Reb Elazar holds it's 2. Even according to Reb Elazar ben Reb Shimon, you need Sukkos, but you don't need Chag HaMatzos and Chag HaShavuos because you already know these 3, right? But the question is on all of them why you need Sukkos, and on 2 of them the question is why you need. The question on all of them is why you need Matzos and Chag HaMatzos and Chag HaShavuos. The question on all of them is why you need Chag HaMatzos and Chag HaShavuos, and the question on the other 2 is also why you need Sukkos. My darsha, what do they do with this? They use it for the teaching of Rebbe Elazar in the name of Rebbe Oshia. Amar Rebbe Elazar, Amar Rebbe Oshia. Minayin la'atzeres sheyesh lo tashlumin kol shiva. How do we know, an interesting halacha, that Shavuos has compensation for 7 days? Meaning, Shavuos is 1 day. On that day, you had to bring a carbon re'iyah, oilas re'iyah, anybody who showed it to the Beis HaMikdash, plus another carbon known as carbon chagiga to celebrate Yom Tov, which you would eat. But the other days, the other ones, Pesach and Sukkot, if you didn't bring it the first day, you have another 6 days. Shavuos is only 1 day. How do you know that Shavuos you have another 6 days, altogether 7 days? Talmud loymar, b'chag HaMatzos, b'chag HaShavuos, b'chag HaSukkos. Makish chag HaShavuos l'chag HaMatzos. He equates Shavuos to Pesach, ma chag HaMatzos yesh le tashlumin kol shiva. Just like Pesach, you have tashlumin for 7 days. Av chag HaShavuos yesh le tashlumin kol shiva. So Shavuos you also have tashlumin kol shiva. Now what this means is by Sukkos it clearly says in Emor, v'chagoysim oisoi chag la'Hashem shiva semim b'shana. You could bring the carbon chagiga for 7 days. You could bring it, doesn't mean you have to bring it for 7 days. It says oisoi, 1. But it means you have tashlumin. If I didn't bring it the first day of Sukkos, I have another 6 days. Pesach is also 7 days. So we learn out also Pesach, that Pesach also you could bring it for 7 days. So they say, since it says Chag HaMatzos, Chag HaShavuos, Chag HaSukkos, you compare Shavuos as well to these, and therefore it has Tashlum and Kol Shiva. That means even after Shavuos, Zayin, Ches, Tes, Yud, Yud, Aleph, Yud, Beis, you have another 6 days, altogether 7. Tashlum and Kol Shiva means altogether 7 with the first day. You can also bring it on Shavuos. And therefore they don't use this for Baal Ta'acher. They don't use this for Baal Ta'acher because they use it for Tashlum and on Shavuos.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.